Have you ever reached into your pocket, like unlocked your phone, swiped to a very specific spot on the screen, and then just stared at it?
Oh, without having any idea why you just did that. Yeah.
Exactly, like without any actual intention.
Yeah.
Your thumb just sort of moved completely on its own.
It's a really bizarre feeling.
It is, and it actually perfectly captures this thing we've been looking into this week. I was reading through these notes from my friend Lily.
Right, and she's usually highly organized, right?
Oh, incredibly. She has a list for absolutely everything. But she completely pulled the plug. She deleted Instagram for 7 days.
Wow.
Yeah, and reading her diary of the whole experience, the very first thing that jumped out at me was this intense feeling of phantom limb syndrome.
Phantom limb syndrome.
Yeah, her thumb just kept reaching for an icon that was no longer there. Like it had a mind of its own.
You know, that phantom limb comparison is structurally very sound. I mean, when you perform an action repeatedly.
Like swiping to open a social app.
Right, exactly. Your brain actually transfers the control of that movement. It moves it from the prefrontal cortex, which is the part that handles your conscious, deliberate decision-making,
Okay.
and it pushes it down into the basal ganglia.
Which is what exactly?
It's essentially the brain's habit center. It's the exact same region that allows you to, ride a bicycle or drive a car without actively thinking about every single tiny muscle movement.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so through this constant loop of dopamine-driven rewards, that thumb swipe literally becomes an automated motor command.
That is wild.
Your brain is actually executing the physical movement before your conscious mind even registers that you want to look at a screen.
So it's like a reflex.
Exactly. It's the purest neurological definition of doing something out of habit. The neural pathways are so deeply entrenched that when you remove the app, it creates a literal physical misfire.
I mean, think about your own phone habits for a second. If someone secretly rearranged your home screen right now...
Oh, I'd be completely lost.
Right. You would probably tap the wrong app like 20 times today because your muscle memory is the one driving the car, not your conscious intention.
Yeah, you're on autopilot.
And that automated sort of zombie-like checking is exactly what Lily collided with on day one of her detox.
She kept reaching for it.
Constantly. She kept unlocking her phone, swiping to the exact folder where the app used to be, and finding nothing but her wallpaper.
That had to be disorienting.
She said she was completely disoriented. But, knowing Lily, she didn't just delete the app on a whim.
Of course not.
She had a very meticulously planned rationale for this entire digital detox. A list, naturally.
Let me guess. It was numbered, categorized, and highly logical.
7 items, to be precise.
Sounds like Lily.
Yeah. And, well, we are going to get into the first 6 items because they are those very socially acceptable reasons you hear people talk about all the time.
Right, the usual suspects.
But the real mission of this deep dive today, what we're really getting at is item 7.
The mystery item.
Yeah, it's the secret emotional core of what actually drove her to do this in the first place. And she kept it completely hidden from everyone until the very end of the week.
Oh, so she didn't even tell you at first.
No, not a word. But before we get to that hidden truth, we kind of have to look at the shield she put up first.
The first 6 reasons.
Right.
Okay.
So items 1 through 6 on her list were essentially spending too much time scrolling,
Classic.
lowered productivity, wanting to read more books, noticing she was comparing herself to strangers, wanting to be more present in conversations, and just like needing a general reset.
I mean, looking at that list, it makes complete sense. If she was experiencing the kind of automated motor habit withdrawal we just talked about, prioritizing productivity is a very rational countermeasure.
Yeah, I guess so.
Like reclaiming your attention span so you can actually focus on a book that's a tangible, measurable goal.
See, I hear you, but I look at that exact same list and I don't buy it. I really don't.
You don't buy the reading goal?
I don't think this is actually about reading more books or like optimizing her time. When I read lowered productivity and general reset, to me, it just feels like a massive intellectual defense mechanism.
Interesting. So you think she was basically hiding behind the idea of productivity?
Completely.
Yeah.
We use time management as a shield all the time.
That's true.
Right. Because it feels so much safer to tell your friends, oh, I'm doing a digital reset to boost my productivity, rather than admitting that an app is actively destroying your self-esteem.
It sounds better.
Exactly. Those first 6 items just feel like a really convenient way to mask a much more uncomfortable emotional reality.
Well, if we look at this psychologically, intellectualization is a textbook defense strategy.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. When humans encounter a really complex or threatening emotion like, let's say, profound inadequacy or the fear of being left behind, the amygdala basically sounds an alarm.
Okay, the brain's panic button.
Right. And to neutralize that emotional distress, the brain tries to convert the feeling into a logistical problem.
Oh, wow. So instead of feeling bad, you just give yourself a task.
Exactly. The logic goes, I am not lonely or insecure. I simply have poor time management skills.
That's so real.
By turning a painful emotion into like a data point that can be optimized, you completely strip away the vulnerability. You don't have to face the insecurity at all if you're too busy tracking your reading goals on a spreadsheet.
Which is exactly what broke down for Lily by the second day.
The shield cracked.
Yes.
Yeah.
Stripping away the app removed that intellectual shield. Because without the constant distraction, she couldn't hide behind the excuse of productivity anymore.
Right, there's nowhere to hide.
She was suddenly just hyper-aware of her own compulsive behavior.
Yeah.
And I think that once you remove the thing you use to numb yourself, you actually have to sit with whatever was driving you to seek the distraction in the first place.
That's the hard part.
It really is. But it forces a kind of clarity.
Yeah.
And that clarity naturally started to spill over into her real-world interactions as the week progressed.
Well, that's the inevitable result of actually regaining your attention span.
You know, the phrase "to be present" gets thrown around in wellness circles so much that it almost loses its meaning.
It totally does. It's on a lot of throw pillows.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But its functional definition is vital here, because to be present means giving your undivided, unfragmented attention to your immediate environment.
Undivided.
Right. In a digital landscape that is literally designed to fracture your focus into a dozen different directions, being present isn't just a passive state you fall into.
No, it's work.
It requires an active, aggressive choice to defend your attention.
Defending your attention. I love that phrasing. And you could really see the results of that defense by the middle of her week.
What happened?
So on day 4, she finally finished a book she had been stuck on for 2 months.
Nice.
And then on day 5, she had the best conversation she'd had in weeks with a coworker. She noted specifically in her diary that she wasn't half listening while simultaneously planning how to, frame the interaction for a post later.
Oh, the mental drafting. Right. She was just there in the room, which is incredibly ironic because when she shared her initial list, reasons 1 through 6 with our friend group, defending their attention was the absolute last thing they were doing.
Oh, I can only imagine how a group that's heavily active on social media processes someone opting out of the ecosystem.
It was hilarious.
Yeah.
And very, very revealing.
Let me guess. Marcus had a thought.
Oh, Marcus was the first to chime in. He immediately just blurts out, "I could never do that."
Naturally.
But then maybe 3 seconds later, he stares into space and ponders out loud,
Hmm?
"Actually, maybe I should." And then he just walked away and never brought it up again.
The classic Marcus cycle.
Yep.
Immediate defensive rejection, followed by a brief flash of chaotic ambition, ending in complete amnesia.
That is him to a T. And then there was Dan.
What did Dan do?
Dan just looked at her, nodded really slowly, and said, "That makes sense."
Wow.
Just 2 words. The most minimal, stoic, ultimate Dan response possible.
I love that. He spoke as if he had already run a complex cost-benefit analysis on social media platforms 3 years ago.
Oh, he definitely did.
Quietly arrived at the same conclusion and was just waiting for the rest of humanity to catch up.
Exactly. But Maya's reaction, Maya's is the one I cannot stop thinking about.
Why? What did Maya say?
Maya actually cried.
Wait, really?
Yes. She got all teary-eyed, looked Lily dead in the face and said, "I feel so seen right now."
Okay.
And then, and I swear I'm not making this up, she immediately pulled out her phone, took a picture, and posted about Lily's digital detox on Instagram.
You're kidding. She documented the escape from the documentation machine.
She literally commodified Lily's vulnerability for her own followers. Zero awareness of the irony.
That is incredible.
But this is where I really struggle with how we interact now. Has our default response to emotional resonance become nothing more than a performance?
And a fair question.
Because Maya felt a genuine emotion in that room. I know she did. But her immediate instinct was that the emotion had no value unless she broadcasted it.
Right.
We are so conditioned to share that it feels like we literally cannot experience a feeling privately anymore.
I mean, we have essentially outsourced our emotional validation to algorithms.
That's a scary thought.
It is, but to understand Maya's reaction, you really have to look at how digital environments condition human behavior over time.
Okay, how so?
When you are routinely rewarded with likes, comments, and metrics for sharing your internal state, Your brain actually begins to associate the broadcasting of the emotion with the resolution of the emotion.
Oh, wow. So posting it is how she processes it.
Exactly. For Maya, experiencing that feeling of being seen privately just wasn't enough to make it functionally real to her brain.
That makes a lot of sense, actually.
In the modern digital landscape, an emotion is often treated as incomplete until it has been perceived, quantified, and validated by an audience.
Quantified by an audience.
Yeah. The performative aspect isn't necessarily shallow or malicious, it's just a deeply conditioned reflex. We've been trained to believe that sharing is the highest form of feeling.
Which creates such a massive contrast with what Lily was actually doing in that exact moment.
Mm-hmm.
Because Maya is loudly broadcasting this tiny sanitized fraction of the story to hundreds of people, while Lily is quietly holding on to this very heavy, hidden emotional truth entirely on her own.
Right, item 7.
Exactly. And that brings us to day 6 of the detox. The moment she finally dropped that intellectual shield and revealed item 7 to me.
The real reason the app had to go.
Yes, and it was heavy. For weeks, Lily had been fixating on one specific account.
Like an influencer.
Not even a massive celebrity or a huge influencer. It was a complete stranger whose life mirrored almost exactly what Lily had planned for herself.
Oh, I see where this is going.
Same career trajectory, same minimalist aesthetic, same highly organized list-making approach to life.
That is very dangerous territory. Because when the similarities are that high, the differences become glaring.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This stranger was just a little bit further along, just slightly more successful, a slightly better execution of the exact life Lily was actively trying to build.
Yeah, that's tough to look at.
And Lily confessed to me that she was looking at this account every single morning before she even got out of bed.
Oh, wow.
And she wasn't looking at it to be inspired. She was using it to measure her own worth.
Ouch.
Yeah. She was actively waking up and using this stranger to evaluate how far she was falling behind in her own life. Item 7 on her list was the desperate, urgent need to stop doing that.
Dan, this cuts right to the psychological toll of what it actually means to compare yourself.
That's brutal.
We often think of comparison really broadly, but what Lily was doing is a highly specific, highly destructive mechanism called lateral comparison.
Lateral comparison.
Yeah. Think about the accounts you might look at. You probably aren't comparing your daily achievements to a billionaire or an Olympic athlete.
Right. I definitely don't have an Olympic medal routine.
The gap is too wide. Your brain doesn't register them as direct competition. We compare ourselves laterally to our peers or to people who are occupying the exact space we want to be in 1 or 2 years from now.
Because it feels like that could be me.
Exactly. That proximity is what makes the comparison sting. It creates this illusion of, I should be there by now, which feels incredibly urgent.
Because it feels achievable, so your failure to achieve it feels intensely personal.
Precisely. And if you tie this to evolutionary psychology, the brain has a built-in negativity bias.
Right.
We are naturally drawn to information that highlights our perceived threats, weaknesses, or deficits. In a tribal environment, ignoring your lack of social standing or resources could literally be fatal.
You'd be kicked out of the tribe.
Exactly. Today, a stranger's aesthetically perfect, highly organized morning routine isn't a physical predator, but your brain's threat response system treats social standing with the exact same intensity.
That is so messed up.
We keep looking at these accounts because some primitive part of us actually believes we need that data to survive, even as it actively harms our self-esteem. Digital spaces essentially weaponize this natural human desire for progress by giving us infinite, perfectly curated lives to measure our own messy realities against.
Weaponizes it.
Yeah.
Honestly, that hits so close to home.
Yeah.
Because hearing Lily talk about this, I have to be honest, I do this too.
Really?
Yeah. I follow specific accounts that I know for an absolute fact actively make me feel worse about myself. I know they make me feel behind or inadequate or just chaotic in comparison, and yet I don't unfollow them.
You just keep watching.
I just keep consuming them, almost like I'm seeking out an emotional punishment. It's
Yeah.
like I'm gathering intelligence on my own insecurities.
It's incredibly common, and I'm certainly not immune to the underlying compulsion either.
You do it too.
Oh, my version of this isn't necessarily lateral comparison, but it's the compulsive need to plug into the matrix before I've even established my own reality.
What do you mean?
I have this deeply ingrained habit where I will reach for my phone first thing in the morning while I'm literally still in bed.
Oh, yeah.
Literally before I have spoken a single word to anyone in my actual physical house.
Right.
Before my feet have even touched the floor, I have already processed global news, urgent work emails, and the unfiltered, often angry opinions of 1,000 strangers.
That is so intense when you say it out loud.
It is. I am flooding my system with cortisol and letting the entire world dictate my mental baseline before I've even had a glass of water.
And it's so hard to break because that consumption disguises itself as connection.
Exactly.
You feel like you're participating in the world when really you're just letting the world happen to you.
It's a very passive state.
Which is why Lily's final day, day 7, is so important.
What did she do?
Well, she proved that sitting with that uncomfortable awareness actually can change behavior. Because when her detox ended, she did return to the digital world.
Okay, so she re-downloaded the app.
She did. But she came back fundamentally different.
How did her approach change after a week away?
Well, for starters, she currently follows 12 fewer accounts.
Good.
And that perfect lateral comparison account we talked about,
The stranger.
permanently gone, blocked and deleted. She literally took the data point away from her own brain.
Good for her. Honestly, reclaiming your own baseline requires removing those false metrics.
And her daily physical habits changed too. She told me she still uses the platform, but now she actually notices the phantom limb.
She feels the reflex.
Yes. She notices when she's doing it purely out of habit. If she catches herself mindlessly swiping, she stops.
That takes a lot of willpower.
It does. She puts her phone face down during meals now. She is making the active choice to be present in her conversations. As she described it to me, something shifted.
That shift she's describing is the vital transition from passive consumption to active curation.
It's like she finally turned off the cruise control in her car.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Because the goal of this whole experiment wasn't to stop driving altogether or to become a digital monk and never use the internet again.
Right. That's not realistic.
No. The goal was simply to grab the steering wheel back so she actually knows where she's going rather than letting the car drive her off a cliff.
Taking the wheel back means you might still drive on the exact same roads, but the dynamic is entirely different.
Exactly.
Because when the cruise control is on, the algorithm dictates the speed, the route, and the destination. But when you have the wheel, you decide when to brake, when to turn, and most importantly, you retain the ability to pull over and just get out of the car.
Pull over and get out. I love that.
Yeah.
Taking back control means breaking out of those automatic, zombie-like habits,
Yes.
which is deeply ironic because automatic, thoughtless habits are exactly what led our friend Marcus into his latest disaster.
Oh, no. What did he do now?
I have to mention this real quick before we wrap up today because it is too good.
Please do.
For our deep dive on Monday, we have the full breakdown of Marcus's latest adventure.
Okay.
He managed to make a highly coveted, incredibly difficult to get Valentine's Day dinner reservation.
Let me guess the fatal flaw here.
He booked it for February 15th.
Of course he did. A day late for romance.
He confidently walked up to the host stand, looking like $1,000,000, completely oblivious to the fact that it wasn't Valentine's Day.
Oh, that hurts to even picture.
I won't give away the ending, but somehow, in the most Marcus way possible, relying entirely on chaotic confidence, it ended up being the best dinner he's had in months.
Chaotic optimism strikes again. I really can't wait to unpack that.
It is going to be such a fun one. You do not want to miss Monday's deep dive. But bringing it back to today and to Lily's shift from passive scrolling to active presence, I want to leave you with a challenge for this week.
Go.
It's very simple.
A simple challenge is usually the hardest to actually execute.
It really is.
Yeah.
For just one meal or one conversation this week, put your phone face down.
Just face down.
Yeah, you don't have to lock it in a drawer. You don't have to do a 7-day detox. Just put it face down on the table and pay attention to what you notice.
That's a great test.
Notice your brain reaching for it. Notice the phantom limb. Notice how the conversation changes when the other person realizes they have your undivided attention. Try it and tell us how it goes.
And if you know someone who needs to hear this, maybe someone who is stuck in their own lateral comparison trap or running on digital cruise control every morning, send this to them. That's it. One person, one share.
Because if Lily's story resonated with you today, if you've ever found yourself scrolling out of habit and feeling worse about yourself without really knowing why, then this space is for you. Hit subscribe wherever you're listening right now. We're just a small show telling real stories, and every single subscriber shows us that someone out there is actually paying attention. Truly means the world to us to have you here.
Real conversations.
Real English.
Every day.
Now, I want you to think about your own daily scrolling for a second. If you went through your phone right now and actively unfollowed every single account that made you feel like you were falling behind. What would your feed actually look like tomorrow morning? Would there be anything left?